Today was the second TT of this year's Tour de France. For every subscriber, I'm given one of these as states. It's economics. Look it up. 31 kilometers, another rolling course, similar to stage 5, but a little bit less punchy from Le Bon to Saint-Emilion. And it was Danish domination today. 4 in the top 10. Mikkel Bjerg would go into the hot seat initially for UAE-Team Emirates, teammate of Tadej Pogacar, 3-time under-23 world champion, setting a time of 36:46, over a minute quicker than Volscheid. Then it was time for Stefan Bissegger, the Swiss bull. He'd had the rain come down on him in the stage 5 TT just as he'd started, and he nearly crashed. I actually remember when his back wheel slid out. He won TT ahead of Cavagna narrowly in Paris-Nice, and he had a better performance today than the stage 5 one in clearer conditions, beating Bjerg's time by 8 seconds, going into the hot seat before the next Dane, who'd come second on the day, Kasper Asgreen, in the Danish national champs jersey, the winner of the Tour of Flanders. He got a little bit unlucky with the break he got into on stage 7, that it was so big that it had Wout van Aert and Van der Poel in it, and then they got attacked by Mohoric and Sturven, and no one really cooperated to bring it back. He came 5th on that stage. He's also been on lead-out duties for Mark Cavendish for a lot of the race. And then he was in that solo move the other day, was at stage 16, and then Kwiatkowski and his teammate Catania bridged across to him, but other teams, Bike Exchange, etc., weren't happy with that, and they brought it back. And he'd be one of the riders I'd expect to actually have a crack tomorrow. He's got that sort of engine where he could win from a break on Champs-Élysées if someone was to do it. The only problem is Mark Cavendish is on his team, so that's not happening. He'll be leading out Cavendish, but he went into the hot seat, 36:14, a very quick time, and I'll be really interested to see what his program will look like for the rest of the year outside of the World Championships. Will he go for GC at the Benelux or Bing Bang Tour, whatever it's called, or will he have to ride there for Evenepoel? Because I think he can win that. The next TT specialist who didn't have a good day once again, maybe suffering a little bit in the heat, Stefan Kung, 17 seconds after Asgreen, a big positive split, or just more like he faded. He did a good time to the first intermediate, and then it was all downhill from there. Then it was time for Wout van Aert, and I think today's performance from him is a pretty solid indication that he was a little bit undercooked in the first week of this year's Tour de France, particularly in the first 5 stages. I mean, he came like 3 seconds behind his teammate, Jonas Vingegaard, on that first TT. He said the parcours today did suit him a little bit more, not so punchy, more rolling climbs. I mean, the winning speed for both TTs, it was only 0.5 kilometers an hour quicker today. But Wout van Aert was absolutely flying. He was looking in better form. Obviously, he won the Ventoux stage. He spent a lot of the Tour de France trying to get in breakaways when a lot of other teams weren't happy with him trying to get in those breaks, spending a lot of energy doing that. But he did take this third week a little bit easier from that perspective, and he smashed Kasper Asgreen's time, going into the literal hot seat, he said, with a time of 35:53, which would be good enough to win this stage, Jumbo-Visma's 3rd stage win at this year's Tour de France. But in terms of GC, I got to say there wasn't much exciting of note. Not like last year's Ponche de Belfi time trial. Ben O'Connor had a huge performance, and Kelderman a little bit underperformed, not able to make up the 30 seconds or so he needed to leapfrog O'Connor's 4th place. Richard Carapaz did the time trial we'd expect from him, mediocre, but he's so far ahead of Ben O'Connor that it didn't really matter, and we didn't expect him to leapfrog Jonas anyway. And it raises the question, like, Carapaz, he's about the same size as Jonas Vingegaard. Maybe he's a little bit shorter, and obviously I'm not an engineer or anything like that. It's not my area of expertise, but just looking at weights, for example, and the fact that they're both, well now, certainly for Jonas, he is now top-tier GC contenders, both about 60 kilograms, there or thereabouts, is the reason that Jonas Vingegaard is so good at the time trial, and Evenepoel as well, for a small guy, low 60s kilograms, is the composition of their body, their limbs, etc. Is Jonas, is the simple answer, he just puts a hell of a lot of time in on the TT bike. I gotta say though, Jumbo-Visma, they've all been flying on the TT bikes this year, so they are doing something very right at an organisational level. Van Aert, Voss, Affini, Vingegaard, Roglic at Basque Country, they're all flying, and Jonas came 3rd again in this TT, 36:25, over 50 k's an hour. He was 3rd in the stage 5 TT for a guy about 60 kilos or less, and he would actually put time into Tadej Pogačar today. And that's an interesting statistic that I'll remember, I guess, for next year. And I know that Pogačar has such a big gap that he was riding incredibly aggressively in the last 3rd week, attacking when he didn't even need to with 8 k's left in stages. But Jonas put 12 seconds into him from stage 9, I think, onwards, assuming that Pogačar doesn't take time tomorrow. Because Jonas would beat him in this TT, but Pogačar had taken bonus seconds and time on the road to him in the previous mountain stages, but maybe that's because Pogačar took this pretty easy, 36.50, coming in 8th, about 3 seconds ahead of Magnus Cort. He was taking the corners pretty chill, as one would expect. He already won the stage 5 TT, and we didn't see the Wout van Aert Dumo faces of terror during a Pogačar TT like we saw last year in stage 20. Wout van Aert winning the TT, his second stage this year, ahead of Kasper Asgreen, Vingegaard, Koen, Bissiger, Catania, Bjerg, Pogačar, Magnus Cort and Dylan van Baarle. A good day for Danish time trialists. Can Wout van Aert win on the Champs-Élysées tomorrow? He said he's going for the sprint, and here's the final GC standings for this year's tour. Pogačar first, Jonas Vingegaard 5:20 back, then Carapaz at 7:03. O'Connor, Kelderman, Mast, Lutsenko, Guillaume Martin, Bilbao, Uran. Lutsenko and Bilbao didn't have great TTs today. But here's what Wout van Aert had to say about this stage and how Jumbo-Visma have picked themselves up during this Tour de France.
Yeah, it was more in my advantage than the first one, which was more punchy. So yeah, I think it was a perfect day.
How was it waiting in that hot seat, waiting for the other times? Were you optimistic, I suppose?
Well, I was definitely a hot seat the first couple of minutes because I was completely overheated after the effort. And yeah, afterwards was yeah, it's always stressful to see, but I guess I had a nice margin on the specialists like Asgreen and Kung, and when I saw the intermediates of the GC guys, yeah, my hopes were raising.
This Tour de France has been fantastic for you. You've proved that you were capable of everything. Winning at the Ventoux, winning a time trial, you must be very satisfied with your performances.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's been a real hard Tour de France for our team, but we always fought through, and yeah, in the end we have 3 stage wins. We have Jonas in the second place on GC, which is just an amazing result for only 4 guys left. So really proud of how we fight.
And afterwards, Tadej Pogačar spoke about his mentality going into a TT where he had just about a 6-minute lead.
Did you go flat out, or were you just in control and having the times in your ear?
Yeah, I was going flat out, but for sure totally different than on stage 5. There was much more adrenaline, but today I did my best. I was prepared good, but yeah, it was just not in the legs. But it's still super performance for me, and I'm super happy with the result.
I suppose it's a completely different emotion compared to last year. How do you compare those two titles?
I cannot compare them. It's really totally different. Like I said before, it's just last year was something else, and this year it's just yeah, just different.
Andre Greipel announced his retirement during today, but he's retiring at the end of this year, not after the stage tomorrow. He is hoping he has a good performance on Champs-Élysées. Wout van Aert versus him, Cavendish, and Jasper Philipsen, Matthews as well possibly. They're the names we're expecting, but I'm hoping someone like Lucas Pöstlberger tries a last 5-kilometer flyer to see if a breakaway can win on the Champs-Élysées. But until the video tomorrow, ciao.